Welcome everyone to the new and improved, revamped, recontinuation, brought back by popular demand, SASEtalk podcast. Um, Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in live, and also if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, thank you all very much. We really do appreciate it. All the views that we have, we really appreciate you guys coming out. Right. So this week we are going to have a topic. The topic is speaking on failures, right? We're going to be talking about failures, either both academic and non-academic failures, right? And how we can deal with them and how we work with them, right? So joining me today are two wonderful guests. We have Christopher Truong and Lehan Nguyen. And me, I will be your host for today. My name is Wesley Chow. I am a senior studying a dual in information technology and web science. I am also a former eBoard member. All right, you guys want to introduce yourselves to the crowd?
All right, I'm Chris. I'm an aerospace engineer major. I am on the e-board as the events committee head, and that's me.
Hi, my name is Lehan. I am a second year civil engineering major with a sustainabilities minor.
All right, wonderful. So let's jump right into it, right? So speaking on failures, right? And failures are honestly a huge part in our lives, right? Everywhere we go, everything we do, we can't always expect to have everything turn out the way we want it to, right? Not every single time, right? Of course, there's always times, beginner's luck, you try something new for the first time and you get it right. But most of the time, we often experience things that don't really go the way we want, or we put a lot of effort into something and that didn't really work out, right? So the first thing that is on our list today is, what was one experience, one failure that you had early on in freshman year or your first year, wherever you were at RPI, that really, really like told you, dude, I gotta wake up. I gotta step this stuff up. Like I can't be doing this same stuff. This is a huge failure. Like I can't do this again. Right? Do you guys have an experience like that?
Well, Chris, do you want to go first? Or can you
Sure. All right, so the first thing that or at least I failed many times in freshman year, or at least my incoming year. I'm a transfer, of course, so I came in last year. Uh, and I failed many times, including academics and outside. But the failure that I've had that made me realize I must change the way I do things is actually when I was running for state's president.
Chris, you wanna move outside first? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can pick this up then.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm very fortunate that my transition to college was actually quite smooth. But for me, one of my biggest academic failures actually happened in high school. Um, I'm not exaggerating here. I legitimately almost did not graduate high school because we have a requirement for 4 English credits, and I almost failed 2 English classes, maybe three,
Wow.
2 half-year ones, and AP English, because I just did not have any motivation in junior years taking a lot of AP classes. And because of the grading structure of our English class, it was very easy for me to disregard that work and to not do it because the feedback wasn't immediate, right? You got a general grade at the end of the semester to just represent what you've been learning, not exactly what grade you've been getting on the individual papers. But those individual papers kind of provided proof. So, especially I think it was the second quarter of my junior year, I just didn't turn in anything, and I got like I got like maybe a C. I think that, and I even think that was generous. Um, that didn't actually improve, so I think I actually ended up with like a C plus overall in that class.
Hmm.
So when kind of turning this into a lesson, right? It make the what I'm saying is important here is that when you have what is deemed a failure, right? One, you have to realize that's a relative term, right? Some people might see, not getting an A in the class as a failure, but some people might, see it was passing. I still passed the class. I still managed to graduate high school. And I ended up actually learning a ton in the class, even though that wasn't really reflected in my grade. Not that I deserved a higher grade in that situation, but it's really all kind of relative, and you don't always have to look on the better side of things, but definitely don't beat yourself down, especially if you can't change the past. Right? So I would say that's the first thing. And then the second most important thing here is that these were English classes that I was not doing very well in. I had no motivation for it. So, especially for Asian culture, it's very easy to get a mindset that you have to excel at everything. But English and writing these essays was just something I was not passionate about. And obviously, here I am at engineering school now, and you can see that, you know, you have to learn something from your failures. In this case, I learned, that I have no motivation for doing this English kind of stuff. So I should try, something, not related to that.
Right, right. Okay, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, thank God that you did pass and graduate high school, or else you wouldn't be here. So obviously, things did work out, and I think I can speak for everyone that thank God, and we're happy that you made it past that. And of course, the English, no one cares about English class anymore, right? Like we're out here in our PI, we never have taken a single English class voluntarily, right? Since I got here, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I actually want to bring up that I did mention earlier that I am pursuing a minor in sustainability studies, which is a HOS class. I mean, a HOS area of study. And I actually been really enjoying my time there. And it's mainly because of more of the application side. So even though I had no motivation for doing like purely just English analysis, interpretation sort of things. In the situation, which I've found a way to tie to what I'm interested in terms of sustainability studies and civil engineering, and just conservation efforts and such, that I've actually found that I really enjoy it.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, no, that's good. That's great to know that you're stepping forward and learning from that. That's good. That's good. Chris, are your dogs done singing the song of the people?
I think so. So, yeah. Well, first off, we're really glad, of course, that you were managed to get past high school, and that's like honestly one of the biggest fears that I had. But I didn't really have too much of an issue, I guess. But I'm having the issue now here in college. But that, like, I'm failing personally. I'm failing in some classes, except the thing is I'm not actually failing the class, I'm just failing the exams. But that's not what like the failure that I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is, or for my failure at least, my incoming year, is the time I ran for state's presidency. So first things first, I ran for president because I wanted to help shape the club to be better and to lead the club to, well, expand and, well, just basically become better in many different ways. I'm not going to give my whole spiel about it right now, but the one of the things that running for presidency allowed me to understand is that you can't, while there is a chance that you won't be able to do or you won't be able to win, whenever you do something, you have to make sure that everything you do works towards a common goal. Meaning, if you're going to do something, make sure you do it with the intention that you're going to win. Make sure you do it with the intention that you're going to succeed. I didn't really do that in my campaign. I, while I did try to win, or I did try to get my outward look to be positive, I didn't try hard enough. And I believe that that's one of my biggest failures is that I didn't put as much effort as I should have into my candidacy.
Right. Thank you, Chris. So yeah, I mean, I was also there for that, and like, I definitely, Chris, you put up a good fight on that front, but things happen, right? And that's it. Sometimes, as you said, things don't work out your way. In hindsight, everything's 2020, right? You look back on it, Lehan, your case, like, oh, I mean, it was just some assignments, Chris, academic tests, running for state president. Hindsight's 2020, and there's no point in saying, oh man, I should have done this, I should have done that. When obviously, when you look back at it, you very clearly know where the mistakes and failing points were, but at the time, it's hard to tell, right? One of the reasons why we are going on about this topic is because for a majority of the people at RPI, they have just finished their first wave of exams, right? And so hopefully, I think both you, Lehan, and Chris, both of you guys, have also taken your first wave of exams this semester, right? And no, knock on wood, hopefully both of you guys did well. But were you guys ever a victim of, the first wave of exams freshman year, and you guys thought like, man, back in high school, I didn't have to study, I didn't have to take notes, right? You could just walk into a high school exam and you could pass that thing with flying colors and didn't have to break a sweat, right? For obviously, that's how I felt my freshman year. That I could walk in here and not have to study, not have to take notes. And then when the first wave of exams came back, I kind of got destroyed. I got wrecked pretty bad. So were you guys also a victim of that mentality? Walking in your freshman year, your first wave of exams, thinking I didn't need to study this hard. This is easy. This is like a review, and then you just get bodied.
Yeah. So I was actually exactly like that. I thought to myself, I don't in high school I never took notes. I never take notes because my personal philosophy is if I listen to the professor, to the teacher, and I understand the words that are coming out of his mouth, as long as I know what's going on, what the concepts are, and I remember the formulas, taking notes is like it doesn't really matter too much. As personal experience, that still works for me. However, what I learned in college is that most of professors teach a lot differently than high school, of course, where they would go through topics in like 5 minutes, and they would continue on, and they would bring up different. From my experience in my engineering courses, they would give out about 5 to 10 new formulas each lecture, and that would be really hard for me to follow. And not to say that it's a cultural thing or a cultural issue, but I personally have a lot of trouble understanding thick accents, and I'd say that there are a good handful of professors out there who do have thick accents, and my method of understanding what the teacher is saying, like as they're explaining things, did not really work out for me, and that's one of the things that I regret to this day is not only not taking notes, but also underestimating the difference in the type of work I would be doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Ehan, you have anything you want to share?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, my transition to college, I was really fortunate that it wasn't too harsh for me. I kind of, I guess, softballed a lot of my courses in high school. I already took AP chemistry, so my first semester I took chemistry one, which of course is a different class, but I already had a stronger foundation than someone who had never taken a chemistry class of that level. Um, and just because of kind of various, I guess, luck, I was able to kind of get through my exams without too much trouble. But some of that, so what but I'll speak about what contributed to me being able to do that. Was just that getting out of high school, I wanted to really try new things in terms of how I studied. Usually from high school, if I was to study, it'd all just be from my house, right? And I would just always end up just like in my bed, just like taking it, sleeping or being on my phone and such. So kind of the strategy I employed going into college was that if I want to get work done, I need to be outside of my room, not or even outside my dorm. So for a lot of time in my first semester, I was actually spending time in the library. What really helped me was on Fridays, where most people don't do work. I'd actually go to one of the TA office hours for one of my engineering classes, and he was in a room with a bunch of other TAs, and there was a table right in the middle of the room, and I'd just sit there and do my homework and like ask a question if I needed help. It was really just like trying something new and kind of seeing what stuck, which I thought was really helpful for me. Also, even though I was kind of used to harder schedules, I really wanted to kind of softball my first semester because a lot of people had already been telling me RPI is a really hard school. A lot of people don't do well academically as they did in high school. So I just really wanted to play things really cautiously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can definitely attest to that. I was let's get this off the bat. I'm not an academically smart dude, right? And even to this, now most people, like they struggle their first semester, they struggle their first year, and then they pick things up. But for me, nah, shit, bro, I'm still struggling, right? Um, there was a time, and this is all within freshman year, right? Classes were rough. Like, dude, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I'm just sitting there, just like, man, what is this professor going on about? Like, and I don't know. Like, frankly, I still don't know why I did so bad. It was a mix of no, I'm lazy, during class, I zone off. The first few minutes, I pay attention, and then I get distracted by something. Um, right, homework I always did. Exams, ooh, that's where the kicker came in. Exams, ooh boy. Um, I walk into exams thinking, like this is easy. This is nothing. Like ain't nothing can take me down. And then and then I check on LMS the next day. I'm like, ooh, that took me down by like two letters. Like shit, man, that hurt. That was bad. I remember one time. There was a time where I overslept for a class. It was CS1, right? And I overslept and I missed a lecture. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I missed one lecture. First time I ever missed a class, right? I still remember this. First time I missed a class. And then the homework came out for CS1, and I'm looking at the homework assignment, and I'm thinking, dude, I have no idea what the heck this is about, right? What is this, right? I tried Googling, I tried everything, and I couldn't figure that out. And I had a week to do it, so I spent that whole week grinding it out. And so I realized, dude, this is if I went to class that one time, that's exactly what they covered, and I had no idea what was going on. And what ended up happening was, dude, I got so frustrated and I got so angry, right? And at no one really, not at the professor, not at me, but mainly just angry at myself. Like, dude, I should have went to class. I should be able to know this. But it got to the point where I got like super mad and frustrated. Like I just I turned off my computer. Like no, then I just sat in my room, cried a little bit, and I called my mom, and I was like, told my mom, it's like, man, I'm not having a good time, mom, right? And well, and God bless my mother, right? She drove up the next day and brought some food and whatnot, and it's like, hey, it's fine, like it's just one homework, it's okay, go back to class, it's fine. And I'm like, shit, bro, like that was the real wake up call. Just like I either have to be on top of everything, right? If I miss class, I have to be able to pick it back up and all that. But dude, that woke me up real good, like saying, dude, I don't know jack in this class. I don't know jack about anything, right? And so moving forward, like I had to like step up my game during studying, during class, and whatever happens, I need to be prepared and I need to take responsibility for it. There was no excuse for I obviously I didn't submit that homework, right? Got a zero on that. So I mean, it didn't bother me. I finished the class. What did I finish? CS1. I finished with like a B minus or something, right?
But you passed.
I did pass. I did pass, and that's the good thing, right? And that cycle, one of my biggest failures as a person is that I don't learn, right, from my mistakes. Like I can count on like 100 different hands, right? Every time I did the same mistake, didn't learn from it, I'd be a millionaire, and I wouldn't have to be attending to school because I just live off my own money. There's so many times where not just in class, but outside as well. But let's talk about class for now, where I keep doing the same mistakes all over and all over again. Where, man, like you look at it, it's like this guy must be an idiot. No, he knows this is going to happen the same way. Yeah, he still does it. Um, I had to take a lot of classes multiple times, right? And that ended up being really, really stressful because I had to take 24 credit semesters, just so that I could stay a little like on track with everyone else, and still be able to try and attempt to get a better score in some of my earlier courses, right? For example, some of these courses were data structures, right? I dropped out of data structures the first time I took it, picked it up the next semester, and finished it. Calc 1 and Calc 2, I had to retake both of those because did. I thought I did horribly the first time around, and then I took it the second time. I did even worse. So that was pointless. Um, so as I said, like I still don't learn from my mistakes, and I've suffered a lot from it, right? Academically wise, but I am picking up the slack in some places. But overall, like as I said, like I got to take responsibility for what happened. That's what happened. It still stays. It's still my record. So nothing I can change about that. Um, so yeah, I mean, a lot of academic failures on that part.
So all three of us have now talked about like our failures. So how would you recommend have anyone watching in identifying their own failures and getting over them?
Honestly, getting first, the most important thing is just knowing that you are going to fail, right? There's a lot of people out here. I don't know anyone in particular, right? So this is not targeted towards anyone, but there's a lot of people who walk around thinking like, man, I can't mess up, if I do mess up, that's life, and they just keep walking. First thing is definitely most important. Just recognize that you are going to fail at some point, right? You're gonna mess up. You're gonna slip. You're gonna sit on your butt. It's gonna hurt, but you're gonna stand up because what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit on the sidewalk the entire life? No, you won't. Right? You gotta get up. But for those of you who do are or who will and who are currently dealing with an issue on failure, right? Either you're coming out from the first wave of exams and you realize, dude, man, this is mad different from high school. Like these exam scores ain't looking so pretty. Um, the best thing you can do is go get help, right? Help in the form of going to your TA, going to your professor, going to your friends, going to your parents, right? Going to find someone and just saying like, dude, I don't understand why the hell I messed up, right? Your professor and TA might tell you, like topic wise, like, oh, obviously you don't understand, how gravity works, you don't understand how to derive, certain equations, and then they can teach you. You go to your friends and you go to parents, and they can probably tell you something different. They'll tell you that, dude, you failed because you were playing Rocket League until 4 a.m. on the day before the test. Like, come on, bro. Like, you can't. You got to step up your studying schedule. And so the most important thing is definitely getting help and getting perspective on why you messed up. If you don't get perspective on your failures, you're not going to understand why you failed. Right? You're like, oh, I failed. I know why I failed. I got a bad score. That's why. I'll study harder next time. But it's not as simple and straightforward as just study harder. Right? Sometimes you realize studying harder might not be the thing because you just are terrible at the way you're studying. You got to change the way you study. You got to be more hands-on with the way you study, right? You can't just look at flashcards and assume that's it. Sometimes you just got to work out problems day and night until you memorize how to do it like the back of your hand. um, at least in my perspective, that you just got to identify the issue and take a different perspective at it. Chris, you got something to say?
Uh,
I'd say, from what I can see from my own experiences, the first step to solving a problem is to acknowledge it. If you fail at something and you just and okay, so there's two different ways you can look at failure. You can either look at it as, oh no, this one time deal. I'm never gonna do this again. The way I failed is something that happens once in a blue moon. Or you could go like, why did I fail? What did I do wrong? And try to search for the issue. Try to find the root of the problem. And I say the latter is a lot more beneficial to you if you do fail in anything. Granted, there are going to be those golden apples that have never failed ever in their lives, and that's like a 0.0001% chance that that's ever going to happen to you. So if you ever do fail, if you ever do something wrong, it's always good to, number one, acknowledge it. Know that you failed. Know why you failed. That's also one of the most important things. If you don't know why you failed, if you don't actively search for your issues, you're not going to be able to solve them in the first place. As for other ways you can try to figure things out, actually, I'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to throw in one more thing about identifying failures, especially academically. Never measure if you failed or not by what grade came out on the other side, right? Sometimes maybe the grader was just feeling really lenient that day, so maybe you came out of that exam with a B on your exam, but if you actually look at all the mistakes you made, you realize you actually don't understand anything about the course content. Something that's really different about college is that it's a lot harder to just say, to brush it off as, oh, I'm never going to use this information in my career ever again, right? It's really easy just to, it's really easy in high school to be like, oh, English class, I'm going to be an engineer, I never need this ever again. While that may be a bit true, when it comes to college classes, a lot of what you learn is going to actually be, especially in the higher level classes, is going to actually be applicable. So you need to make sure that when it comes to course content, that you need to be like, am I confident in the workplace? Because you're going to be writing resumes, and you're going to want to display your skills, and you don't want to tell a recruiter I can do XYZ when you realize you only got past those classes by luck and memorizing the steps on how to do it, but not why it's done that way. Um, Actually, quite recently, I'm taking Computer Science 1 right now in a traffic engineering class, and our professor in a lab actually told us to do the lab, you have to go through a lot of data. So he's like, I recommend that you guys write a code for this, right? And at this point, I had not taken MATLAB, and so Python was literally the only thing I only sort of knew. So if I only got past the computer science one up to now, just being able just to solve the questions that they ask on the exam, being able to code just what they want, there's no way I would have even gotten close to being able to code what I need to code for something that I'm actually might be asked to do in the workplace.
Right. So now, building on top of that, right? And this is also another section we have on the many topics I have written out on the list here. No, knowing that you're gonna fail, right? And seeing that these things happen, one of the worst things you could do is comparing yourself to someone who didn't fail, right? And this can take form in many, many different ways, right? Either in one way, there's an exam, you did poorly, and then your best bud over there, he got a perfect mark. I'm pretty sure this has happened to a lot of people, where you didn't do so well, your friend did better. You're at a carnival, you failed the ring toss, your friend didn't, and he gets the plushie. There's a lot of cases where comparing yourself to other people really, really set you back, and you made you look at yourself like, man, I feel like dog doo doo. Like this ain't fun, right? So how do you guys stop yourself from comparing your mistakes and your failures and comparing yourself entirely as yourself and as your whole being, comparing to other people who you consider to be a little bit better or someone who didn't fail? How do you guys stop that?
I myself, I do that all the time, and I still do it now. As for whether or not that affects my mental, the way I think of it is some people are just academically better. It's just, I personally accepted the fact that some people are just better academically than myself, but it doesn't mean I'm still going to fail or like for the rest of these classes. It's you, so people learn in different ways because everyone is different. So the way other people learn, which is like taking notes, going to TAs, and maybe even looking up YouTube videos on the internet, may be different from the way I learn, which is like looking at back exams, studying problems, and so on and so forth. It's just you got to find the right way to study for yourself, as instead of comparing yourself to other people and trying to do what other people are doing. So, because most of the time, whenever somebody else does better, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing the wrong. If you're not, what's it called?
You're not doing the wrong thing, the wrong approach,
It might be.
the wrong
Actually, come back
mindset.
to me. Come back to me
Okay.
in a few minutes.
Okay.
I need to formulate my thoughts.
Okay. Well, but anyways, I was gonna build off a point that you made, right? So Chris, how did you find out, right, in terms of studying, right? How did you find the perfect way for you? How did you come across that? Or have you not yet found that perfect method to studying?
There is no perfect method to studying. I'm just gonna say that right now. But the best way that I found, like how I could study personally, is well, I tried different methods. First, I went to TAs. I found out that that didn't really help out too much because everyone is taught differently, and the when people are taught a certain way, they will quote unquote regurgitate are uh, what they learned in class. And sometimes some TAs teach differently than others because what one TA can use one method that they learned from a professor, and another TA can use a different method they learn from a different professor. More often than not, the TAs that you get have been taught by the professor that they're assisting. So my personal preference was actually looking at back exams, looking at the solutions, and then understanding the steps in which the problems were solved. That when I started doing that, I learned a lot more, and I learned a lot about the processes behind things. And one thing I realized is personally at least for myself is I learned a lot during the exams doing the questions rather than learning in class and doing in class examples being walked through them. I and that still happens now where I didn't understand anything about, for example, IEA in class because of the way the teacher was teaching it. But as I was working through the problems, I was working through the homeworks, I started understanding more. So it's not there are different ways to learn something. You just have to try out different paths and take on different methods before you find the right one for yourself.
Mhm.
Can I just add on to that
Yeah,
in
go
terms
ahead.
of what happened, what worked out for me? As I mentioned earlier, how I just really started trying like new things. In general, what I found worked for me was that I needed to be in a place, even if I was going to be working by myself, I needed to be in a place where kind of people were around and I could kind of feel some sort of accountability in terms of if I, like, for example, if I'm in a study room, right? Actually, that's a bad example. If I'm in the union, right, and I'm there, there's some people scattered around at different tables, but anyone could just look over and like see what's on my laptop screen. So if I was just watching some really stupid YouTube video, kind of that idea that if I'm not if I'm not okay with other people seeing what I'm doing, am I really doing what I should be doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
So that really helped me kind of stay focused in terms of getting my work done. Um, and that kind of also applied to when I was doing work with the TA. Honestly, in terms of help I got directly from that TA, I got like no help. Like sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, I need some help," and then he'd explain something, I wouldn't understand it any better, and then we'd just be arguing. It'd be odd, but um, but it was nice to just have like places you associate yourself doing work. Um, on campus, another one favorite spot of mine is in the library, third floor, facing MPAC, or no, well, facing towards Troy. There are these desks that are there, and they're all spaced apart, but they're not. They don't have any like side walls or anything. So it just be like 10 people just sitting on individual desks, and you know that anyone could look over and be like, why is she watching that weird video online? So that accountability really helped me stay productive.
Yeah.
Um, and in terms of, feeling inferior, a lot of this in uh, actually going into freshman year, when it was kind of like RPI's designated friend making time, you'd talk to a bunch of people, and then they'd be talking about all these projects that they did back in high school, about all these AP classes, and how they're coming in with 50 bajillion credits. And I just felt such a strong urge to start classes actually, because I was like, I need to prove myself. The only way I can, I can get over this feeling is if I say, okay, well, going forward, what can I do? And I can't change things that I accomplished in the past, but I can change now what's going forward. So it actually made me really enthusiastic to start classes so I could say, okay, well, now we're on a level playing field. We're all taking the same courses now. We'll generally um, get at it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, those are all good points you brought up. I mean, man, it's really difficult, trying to no from no, there's a lot of topics to break down here, but going on studying and finding that good studying method and location for me, it's got to be comfy, it's got to be nice, it's got to be warm. I gotta feel nice, right? Um, so I tried library, like as I said, everything we do, they're different for everyone. I don't like having people looking over my shoulder, right? Now, I'm pretty sure everyone here can remember when you're kids, right? You got a game on your phone, and some random kid shows up behind you and starts watching over your shoulder, and they're like, "Yo, what game you playing?" I'm like, "Why are you looking at me, bro? Like, do your own thing, right?" Um, so I don't know. I'm not a big fan of having someone looking over my shoulder, so. At first, I was like, "Oh, do in my room, doors closed. No one's seeing me if I mess up, right?" And that also goes into like showing people unfinished work, um, whether it be code, whether it be art, anything unfinished. I don't know. I just don't like showing people. But then I realized I don't do any work in my room, right? Like I'm anywhere near 5 feet in my bed, I will knock out if I try to focus. I moved over to outside, and then that's what I have right now. My current setup at my place. I work outside in the living room, and it's a little bit weird sometimes. Sometimes you're having a really important meeting, and then your roommate walks around in boxers right behind you, and then you're like, "Ah, shoot, I forgot to set up the virtual background." Like, that's good. That's a little weird. And then you got people walking around in the back, but then I think I've grown to accept the fact that um, people don't really give a damn, right? What you're working on, right? They might be a little curious, like, oh, what is he doing? But they don't really care if like, oh, that's unfinished code. Look at this loser. Like, oh, he's in the middle of doing like artwork. Oh, look at that loser. No one cares, right? And so I've grown to feel a little bit more open about my work and doing things out in public. But that's all relative. So we actually have a question from the audience, which we are going to jump to. Um, right? Because we kind of did touch over on all the points I had listed out briefly. So I don't. Let's jump over to the audience questions. If you get asked a question during an interview about a big challenge or failure that you face, how would you respond to the question to still save face?
So this is actually a really common interview question. But the companies, from their perspective, what they're really interested in is knowing that, when faced with failure, how are you going to combat that and how you rise above it. So it's really less about embellishing upon like what you massively failed at rather than how, and more of how you got over it. So what I would start off with is make sure you're picking a failure that is something that you got over it, firstly, and try to not pick something that, pick something that I think is less generic. It's just kind of a rule of thumb when it comes to when you're in any interview situation, is that you want to make yourself stand out in comparison to other interviewees. So, for example, taking something like, oh, I failed an exam and then I got over it by studying more, right? That's a horrible answer. A better answer might be that I was just in that situation. Maybe that is your only failure. You might want to say something like, I wasn't grasping the material correctly. The homework problems were very difficult for me to do. But I got over that by creating a study group with my friends and paid a lot closer attention to the concepts behind my work. In general, though, I would actually, when you're having an interview, though, they want to see how you're going to perform in the workplace. So that example about, getting over your exams, while that is very valid in terms of a failure and overcoming it, would probably not be the best example. I don't know if you guys have a better example.
Mm-hmm.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I get a variation of that kind of questions, I mean, I don't know about you or anyone here, but I sometimes go to like something that's more personal, not something that's like work based, because I feel that I have not really felt anything that was more, I guess, not competitive, but like more significant than, or I haven't felt any conflict in like the workplace, but I felt conflict in my personal life, and so I feel that it's a valid choice in trying to figure out what you using something from your personal life as like a way to answer that kind of question, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are watching at home and aren't able to see, that was one of our people in our audience who just piped up, Justin. Thank you, Justin. All right, Chris, you got anything you want to share?
Not about the interview one, because personally, I don't have a lot of experience in interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
But if no one has anything else to add on to it, I have something I want to say.
Oh, well, please, by all means.
All right. So moving on from that, on the topic of career choices and like what to do in your future, it's very important to realize that GPA or anything that has to do with grading is just one step towards what you want to do in your career. There are a lot of different ways you can achieve success. If the GPA is only one of them. It's the easiest way, or at least it's the most mainstream way, right? Having a high GPA, going to classes, so on and so forth. It's one of the most laid out paths that you can take. However, that's not the only path you can take. There are also other ways you can succeed. For example, doing personal projects, doing personal research, anything that doesn't have to deal with academics. For example, of course, big names out there such as Mark Zuckerberg or other very well-known successors, they, of course, they don't they haven't they've dropped out of college, mainly because they've managed to do something on their own and succeed through it. Of course, I'm not telling you to drop out of college or fail in your courses. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is if you fail in class, if you do bad in academics, it's not the end of the world. You can always find a different way to succeed in your like dreams. There are always different paths to your goals, and it's not as something as simple as, oh, I'm just gonna like work on this, or I'm gonna work on my classwork and follow the rules. Sometimes you gotta break rules in order to get what you want. And I'm not like not saying breaking rules is a good idea, but
Damn, Chris, you're
it's
advocating
always
being a
Yeah.
criminal. You're trying to advocate being a criminal over here.
I'm not
I'm
advocating
like,
being
to
damn.
add, to add on to that, I would say, kind of in general, just the most important question you need to ask yourself in the face of failure is that, why am I failing this? And is this something I want to keep trying at, right? Sometimes your failures can be an indication that maybe this isn't the work that you should and you want to be doing. Sometimes, of course, there's always the inevitable, like, to get to my goal, I have to get past this. But quite often, especially when it comes to college in general, right? You apply for college, you go to college just because that's what everyone else is doing. You take certain classes, you make certain choices because that's what everyone else is doing. So sometimes it's important to ask yourself just the question of, is this what I want to be doing right now? Is this something that's going to be bringing me to my overall goal? And if the answer is no, I would really recommend taking a good look at, what is going to take you there and what is going to bring you closer to that goal.
Mhm. All right. Chris, any closing statements from you?
If you feel like what you're doing isn't something you want to do, if you feel like you're doing something because it's, I guess, something your parents want or something that you think is gonna be good in the future, don't do it. If you're failing in something and you don't feel like the outcomes of doing good in that particular major is going to be something you want to do or something you're interested in, don't do it. Right? There are always other career choices that are different from your own or different from the ones you have already that might be more interesting to you, that you might actually be satisfied with, that are, well, you just have to try it out. For example, Mr. Wesley Chow, would you like to talk about how you switched majors because you didn't feel like your first major was, well, something you wanted to do and you weren't doing so well?
Well, okay, but oh, that's a little sidetrack, but yeah, no, I came in originally as a CS major, right? Thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do something with computers. That sounds cool as hell. Like computers are the future, right? And I'm like, yo, let's go. Then I realized, dude, after like the first semester, I realized a lot of these CS kids are pretty much like they're not fun people to be around. They're not fun people, and
All the CS people are gonna come at you now.
we're not, let them come at me. Like damn, like their smell's good from not showering to knock me out faster than they can beat me up, right? But I realized these are not the kind of people I want to be like not associated with. That's a strong word. A softer word would be, I don't really see myself in that environment being competitive, right? Because either you gotta be super super smart, right, and you gotta be like a code monkey. You're able to slam away in your keyboard 24/7 and like pump out code like a machine, or you're like not, if you can't be up there, you're not really competitive, right? And I couldn't find myself getting a competitive edge in that scene, and I'm like, I'm not gonna walk into an industry where I don't have any reason, where someone should hire me over the guy who can pump out 5 million lines of code in like an hour, right? Like, there's no reason for me to compete with someone. I know I'm gonna lose. So I swapped majors just because I knew that like competitive in the industry, I'm not gonna win against the code monkey. I gotta find something where I excel at, right? Which leads me to my closing statement. Um, you gotta love yourself, right? No, you fail, you mess up, it's fine. Well, correction, sorry, it's not fine, right? It's obviously like messing up. It's not the best thing, but it happens, and it already happened. You can't go back in time and change. Like, oh shoot, man, bro, like, damn that exam, right? Like, you messed up, and you just got to keep on loving yourself. You got to understand, like, it's not a 100% your fault, unless it actually is 100% your fault. But very rarely is it ever like completely 100% your fault, right? There's always other factors that you have to consider in. And the more time you waste thinking, oh, what are those other factors? What are those other reasons why I messed up, right? The more you keep dwelling in the past, the less you're gonna have time to think about like the future, right? I'm gonna end it off with a quote from a movie, Kung Fu Panda, what Master Oogway said, right? My main man, no, my boy, he said something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he said something. You know, the what's that quote again? The past is history, the future is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present, right? So you got to live with yourself where you are. Whatever happens in the past, forget about it. Whatever comes up later in the future, you'll find out. But you just got to love yourself in the moment. You got to live in the moment, and you got to show some self-respect to yourself, to whatever you have overcome in your life, and you got to move forward with that, right?
I wouldn't say forget about your history because
Well, no,
learning from
not
your
that.
history is one of the most important things. But yeah.
But you got my point, right? But overall, thank you all to our speakers, to our live audience, and also to our asynchronous audience who's watching on our YouTube channel. Thank you all very much for showing up today and listening to us talk about speaking on failures, right? Thank you all very much. If you do enjoy this video and you want to see more, please leave a like, a comment on what you enjoyed or how did you guys deal with your failures, and make sure you subscribe, right? If you do have a certain topic that you would like to see us talk about, please leave it in the comments below or reach out to one of our executive board members and we will be sure to bring it up, right? Thank you all for showing up, and we will see you next time on SASEtalk.